And I'm back with probably the final episode of this recording session of .hack GU last Recode. It's an 8th episode so far. Either way, this will just be a grind episode, because I need levels. I want to say level 17 or 18 or something like that for the first fight in the arena. So... yeah, 13. Yeah, 13's good. Especially given their level. We'll see how this goes. If I need to go a little higher, then I will. Not a whole lot to talk about here. But, like, offhand, as far as I can tell. Oh, these dudes. Oh, no. So, yeah, it's just me fighting a bunch of dudes.
Damn, this is bad.
Eh. But I suppose what I could talk about is the original franchise and why this is a much better version of that similar game. .hack, Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine came out in 2001, 2002-ish. This came out in 2006. And it is a night and day difference. A lot of the similarities do persist. Going to the dungeons, getting beast statue, or yeah, getting to the beast statue, doing the thing, and fighting the dude, and whatnot. But, it felt very stiff. Mainly because it was the first time. They didn't, ooh, maximum HP, ooh, cool. They didn't have a lot of good animations. Or it felt like just everything felt really stiff. The story was there. Story was about the same as this. You know, people trying to combat the data drain and data bugs and stuff like that. And, you know, people falling into comas and stuff like that. That was in the first game. And a lot of it was occurring to Kite's friends or other people's friends in the game. So there was still a personal element to things. But a lot of the things other than the cutscenes lacked polish. It lacked speed. It was just, you know, one of those, like, mid-tier, or even lower than that, just gameplay-wise. It had a lot of cool ideas, you know, giving gifts and trading stuff to players, and some of the music was fine, but it just lacked a lot of polish. Didn't help it was 4 games of mostly the same thing. Go to a dungeon, do the thing, and just keep going to the dungeon and doing the thing. Like, you do this, you go into the, you have an arena outside the world, then you go into the dungeon, and you go into the thing, and then you go to the bottom of the dungeon, and you fight what was known as a data bug in most cases. A lot of that's still true here, but they added things like the arena, or battles with avatars to change things up. To at least give some... Because as fun as a game can be, there's too much of a thing. And if it's always the same thing, it's always going to be a bit of a drag. And that's, unfortunately, what Dot Hack suffers from, even in this game. Is a lot of the go to the dungeon, do the stupid thing, and do, fight, the dude has got the beast statue, get the rare item, do the thing, and repeat. That's why I cut, in the earlier episode, I cut directly to the cutscene, because I wanted to advance the story, and it turns out the cutscene was 10 minutes long. So, you still benefit from, long cutscenes and learning that stuff, and it's good, and as I said, I love the voice acting, and I love the story they're trying to tell, and weaving in cool things in the narrative of saying, are these people really people? Are you slowing down enough? Are you treating people with etiquette? Little things like that. Throwing in because this is a normal single player RPG attempting to pass itself off in world as an MMO. So having people have thoughts, developing things, having forms, those are just little additions that this game had that the other game really didn't. You'd go to your desktop and, you'd have maybe a forum or two, but it would look kind of stiff and it would just have text and whatnot. This has, visuals. It's got a, random card game that you want to do. You got a bike that you can ride. It just feels a little more lively. Feels like there's more things. The arena, as said, also gets a bit ridiculous because a lot of the game just is the arena battles. But then there are things like this where, there are little quests you can do. I don't usually do them because they're dumb, but they're there. Having options can mask the monotony quite a bit. Even if you don't deal with them all that much. And again, that can translate to having different characters you want to play as. That's one of the other drawbacks that this game doesn't really do well, and I think the original quadrilogy plays at a little better, honestly, is having different types of characters. Which is it's a hard sell sometimes because you want to have your main character be interesting enough to play, and the way they do that is to have him do multiple types of weapon attacks, and we'll get to that eventually.
Let's do our best.
In fact, probably in short order once I'm done leveling up. It's called a job extension. So he'll go from doing the twin blade attacks to using the chainsaw sword to using the scythe. But the problem is, by and large, I don't remember that many people having the heavy sword. I don't remember that many people, if at all, having, maybe one or two having the scythe. There's one or two, including Pyros, that uses a lance. But more often than not, you're stuck behind mages, normal attackers, because they just overuse the standard sword users. It's not all that exciting. A setup, because what mechanically is the difference between... What's the difference between Syllabus and any number of other people? Mechanically, nothing. They're the same class. So having an option like, say, Pi or Kun, who do different shit, that not many people do, is fun. But there's a lack of options for all the characters. I think there's like 15 or so characters you get in the game, and it's like, well, there's not a lot here. So why am I using a lot of the blade characters? I don't want just the blade users. And that was something in the original game that wasn't always a thing, because a lot of the ways they protected having to use characters was they would give you these, like, as part of your affection meter, they'd say, hey, go to a quest with me. You know, so you'd take a certain person, do on a quest. You know, it'd be another dungeon, but you'd learn about that character. You'd learn about them, much like you've seen in the dialogue stuff on the message boards here, or the email chains here. They had the email chains in the other game. And the same rules apply. Not everybody's always going to be available. That is another thing that is kind of neat, is not having people always available. Either due to story reasons or personal reasons. They mimic the idea of having a job, having a schoolwork, having whatever, not being online all day. So you're not just tied to having the same party. Again, the drawback is you should have had more options. I could have used more twin blades or tribal grapplers. You know, some people like using the heavy equipment, so they would have preferred a heavy blade user. Really, all you really get with that is a couple of adept rogues who can use that weapon. You don't get a lot of gunners. You know, Kuhn is pretty much by himself until way late in the game where you get another one, which, again, it would be a spoiler. You know, I don't want to do that. So it's frustrating in a way because of the advancements that this game has story-wise, character-wise, and, you know, visuals. You know, it's not the most amazing visuals, but it's got its own style. It's like faded color backdrop and like haziness to everything. It's a design choice, but it's, you know, it lacks the polish. But it also doesn't come across as lazy either. Because again, it's made... These games aren't made much, right? Dot Hack was made as an anime-based tie-in, so they only have so much money to go around. But still, I'd put this game up against any RPG that was available at the time, other than, say, the Persona games in Final Fantasy X. Yes, I would say I prefer this game over Final Fantasy XII, because... Of course I would. Came out same year, don't care. If it were me, I would have said for that year, Persona 3, Dot Hack GU, and then Final Fantasy 12. I'm sure there's other games that came out in 2006, but I forget specifically which ones that happened.
That was nothing.
But what really keeps having me come back is I would say the seriousness. While this game isn't very serious, in most cases, Pyros being a major example, Saku being an annoying little shit half the time, or, you know, Gaspard being Gaspard, you know, or the death grunty, the grunty stuff, you know. I don't think the comedy in this game is really helping the game at all, but I understand why it's there. But it's never so intimately tied into the game that its tone is defined by here's our funny bit, ha ha ha. It's more of an annoyance and a side thing that I can ignore rather than, well, it brings the game down to a complete crawl, and I don't like it, I don't want to like it, I don't need to like it, and go. I'll probably do another... Yeah, let me do a boss quest. Yeah, so we cleared that one out. So let's do a second one. So we got to level 13 and 12. Let's go to 16. Or maybe even 17, but that might be too much. Dang. Alright. But again, you can see where there is a gameplay loop. But adding in certain aspects to the gameplay changes the loop a fair bit. And the biggest thing for me is that casting. Because I was an anime fan, and you do... I think in certain cases, like, you don't have to be an anime fan to play JRPGs, but by and large, you kind of do, right? Because if you're not, then it leaves you kind of an alert sometimes. to be from that perspective. Let's see, can I do a 17 or not? Nah, 16's fine. A lot of games use anime stylization. They use that stuff. They use the same voice casting. These people know what you're expecting of them. You know, and by and large, a lot of these people, not only in video games, but in anime at the time, they know kind of what the expectation is. A lot of the tropes that you find, good and bad, are from anime. You know? And I'm not saying the tropes are good or bad. You know, some of them are exhausting. And this game can't seem to get away from it either, but doesn't overdo it. Because it doesn't have a hot spring scene, because why would you have a hot spring in a online video game? You know, that sort of thing. Doesn't do a beach episode, you know. So it avoids those. But I mean, it does the teardrop stuff, it does the stupid comedy and stuff, you know. It's not perfect. I think I should be helping Syllabus kill stuff. Oh boy, this is gonna take a while. Never mind, they're gonna try and heal these fuckers. That's annoying. There we go. But again, it's a comfort thing. It's knowing that regardless of the environment, you know, tropes exist, for better or for worse. Oh, I don't like that you heal. So, having a backdrop, and say, having these characters, or having these actors that people were, you know, from, you know, 5 or 10 years at the time, now up to like 15 or 30 years, you know, I can trust that their voice casting is good because I've played a Persona, or I've played other games of this type where I recognize that person. And I've heard it said before, I would prefer having people I've never heard before so that I can engage with the character. I'm kind of the opposite. Because whenever I'm like watching a new show or something, if I don't know the voice cast right away, I don't know what to expect. You know, I try to watch shows, especially now, like, because I do watch a ton of anime, I'm like, I plop an anime mostly on alerts because I rarely, like, I'll know the name of a show, but I won't research it. I do the same with video games too. I don't like knowing too much about a video game, or an anime, or a show, or a thing. I like to go in as unimpressed as possible, unless it's something like a Persona or Yakuza, or even if I'm not playing, you know, I'm not playing Rebirth mostly just because I don't want to do. Let's face it, I'm doing this, doing Persona 3 Reload, and I'm probably doing, at the time of this, recording Chrono Cross on stream, and I'm doing stuff for Patreon as well. Trying to add in another 100-hour game on top of that, on my own time, is going to be a bit draining. So I'm saving my stuff for Rebirth to just watch it and enjoy it that way. you know.
Here goes.
But I'm not sitting here saying I don't like Rebirth, but I realize that I don't like it so much. The gaming part. You know, the game part of it, I know enough from having played Remake that I can sit there and go, you know, I like it, but I'm okay not playing it. I'll watch other people stream it, or I'll do stuff myself. You know, no big deal. Ow, fuck. Same thing with another, but again, that's a unique situation where I had played the remake, I enjoyed the remake, but only to an extent. But I didn't sit there and go, okay, I want to know every single thing about everything I'm doing, you know. Same thing with watching a show. I want to find a show and just see what happens. And getting back to the thing about the casting, same thing about, you know, playing a game or watching a show. It's like, if I hear, let's say Yuri Lowenthal, who's Haseo, right? If I hear him in something else, well, again, it would matter if he's playing Alucard, you know, in Symphony of the Night. I didn't find that all that great, you know, because I don't think he fit that character. By and large, I thought the voice casting for the Symphony of the Night remake was fine, and in some cases better, because the person who plays Pi was Succubus, right? So I found her portrayal to be better than, Darkling, I smell your blood, you are a vampire? You know, but the Dracula dude and the Alucard guy, those voice actors were better in the original game, you know. But by and large, I hear, like, Yuri Lowenthal in something. Like, he's freaking Spider-Man. Like, I'd play Spider-Man if it was my type of game. Knowing he's in it, like Tara Platt, who's Mitsuru, and Elizabeth, right? So I'm sitting there going, there's something cool about that. Like, oh, I know that person. You know, that's why I do that. And that's why I sit here and go, oh, okay, so this person is in it, so that I know that I'm going to probably like that character. I can, like, compartmentalize hearing that person in my head for like 15 seconds and then going, oh, okay, all right, what's this game, what's this, at least I know something about this show or this game I didn't know before. And now I can go, huh, all right, I'm more interested when I hear something I'm familiar with. I understand the allure of having different things, but I don't need different things. If I want different things, I will take different things, but I don't need them. I like the familiar. I mean, have you seen my channel? I play mostly the same types of games. Subtle differences here and there, but these are the same games by and large. Okay, I finally leveled up. Thank fuck. Yeah, that was a little hard. But again, getting back to that main point of doing something different. That's fine. And sometimes we want something different. Sometimes I don't want to have that same, oh, okay, this guy's transported to another world, the isekai thing. What is that going to do for me? When isekais are everywhere. Even now, like 5 or 10 years after the fact that they got cool. You know? Because trends are trends and tropes are tropes, right? You know, do a popular thing long enough, you'll have every goddamn thing under the sun having been referenced. There is no originality, okay? I understand that. But there is enough going on that living in a bubble, to an extent, is fine. Not everybody likes the same thing. Not everybody wants to do the same thing or feel the same thing. But unless it's a game like, say, Yakuza or Persona. Like, I knew about Persona 3 because I played Persona 3. I knew I was going to love Persona 3 Reload without thinking. But I didn't sit here and try to research every single thing about Persona 3 before playing it. I waited until 12 o'clock that night, well, 11 technically, to play it and to be floored. And by and large, I have been happy with that. I've spent the 70, 80 hours digging through Yakuza, and at time of recording, I'm near the ending. You know, I'll probably be done by the time you see these episodes, but I don't have that fervor with, say, Rebirth. You know, despite thinking that, you know, I haven't watched it, it's still a week away, I haven't played it, but the gameplay of that is not what I want a Final Fantasy game to be. I've said this. If I wanted Final Fantasy VII to be Final Fantasy VII, I'd want to play Final Fantasy VII. If I want Final Fantasy VII to be a Tales game, or a Dot Hack game, or an Ys game, I'd rather just play an Ys game. You know, or a Star Ocean game. So there's always that kind of weird disconnect for me. That's why I'm confident to say, you know what? The stuff I want to play is the stuff in the story. And you know what I can do? I can watch a YouTube playthrough of it if I want to experience the story. The same thing happened with Final Fantasy 16. You know, I weighed kind of the priority of, do I want to play this game versus do I want to experience it? Now, by and large, Final Fantasy 16 was okay, story-wise. Visuals-wise, cool battles, but, I mean, the visuals otherwise were kind of bleak and bleh because of story. But anime's the same way, right? I look at a thing and I go, alright, storyline's cool, I'm kind of liking the character, I'm kind of not liking the, you know, you're weighing that kind of stuff in your head over and over and over when you're watching a thing. Because everybody does it. You're weighing, what are you seeing? What am I seeing right now?
This'll be quick.
Am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying what I'm watching? And that 3-episode rule kind of thing. Same idea applies. I'm trying to watch, say, a random show, Gankutsuo. Like, I had like 50 million options in my head and what I was going to say. Gankutsuo. What did I see? I saw Count of Monte Cristo. Okay. I haven't read the book, but I kind of get the gist of it. I saw unique character designs, awesome visuals, intriguing characters, a space motif in a story that was set in, like, France and, you know, stuff like that. You know, so a retelling of that stuff in a futuristic motif. You know, these crazy, cool, weird kaleidoscopic visuals, a design that is unique. So I invested in it. Other people might go, okay, well, I'm not into that show because of this thing. It's too slow, it's too dumb, it's whatever. I'm not into the political drama or the main character being, you know, Albert instead of the Count. Because the Count is really good, but he's the main character. Why are you focusing on that guy? So you might say, alright, that character might not be fun, so I try something else. You look for things that you find interest you. And we do that all the time. We're always trying to do that in our heads every single day. We're weighing options that we go, okay, I like this because of this reason, or this reason, or this reason. And if there's enough of those, then I can kind of gauge whether I'm liking something. The things that I like about Dot Hack, and especially GU, are the snappiness of the gameplay, because this is a lot faster. It just feels like everything has more impact, everything is more contained, everything feels a little bit more structured. But there's a little more versatility and variability in the game that the originals didn't have. Characters are another thing. While I'm not saying every character in this game is great, and I will readily admit that Haseo is annoying as fuck, I didn't hate him initially enough so much that I didn't find him relatable. Adelie, you know, I personally don't like her as a secondary main character. She's not somebody I would sit there and go, I want to be around this person all the time. That's not what this character is meant to be, though. But there are people out there who could say, no, I like Adelie because he reminds me of myself. Or it reminds me of something I want to see. You know, things in an online world. A person kind of slowing down and taken advantage of by bullies, or not really winning at life. You know, little shit like that. There are people who ascribe to that. So I could see both. I could see Haseo's perspective of things. I could see Adelie's side of things. And the interplay of them and a regular person like Syllabus, who's, you know, beyond this whole epitaph user bullshit. You know, the allure of, in some small sense, doing that. Having Kun be this womanizer. You know, you could see that. You know, is it everybody's cup of tea? No. But they're doing it. You know, is Gaspard my favorite character? God, no. I hate those kinds of characters. But I'm kind of glad that, like, he's not the main character. The thing that would have drove me nuts is if somebody like Bo or Gaspard were main characters instead of side characters. If Haseo wasn't the main, and instead we were playing as Gaspard learning how to not suck, that would have drove me nuts. So it's different, you know. Some people like I like them learning about the, you know, overcoming their sort of wimpiness and whatever, because they're kids, you know, they're probably a lot like me. I didn't grow up, you know, not me personally, but just in a general sense. What if you're like that person? You might ascribe to a person like Gaspard more, or Bo, because you might have lived through that. You might have experienced a thing like that. I didn't. I didn't grow up, honestly, all that sheltered. I just didn't really... All I really did was play video games all day. I didn't really try to be the center of attention. So I guess, in some sense, later on in life, I'm trying to change that by trying to act more, or playing stuff on YouTube, or being more of a presence, you know? But it's also a change, because the characters I would have liked when I was 10 or 15 or 20 are different now that I'm almost 40. I have certain characters I'm interested in. And I do think Persona, by and large, is that benefit. You know, because it's all about characters.
Here goes.
I ascribe to a game not even by its story first. I ascribe to who the characters are. I care about a game because of its characters, because there's only so many story beats you can tell. I like stories, I like JRPG stories, and I like JRPG environments, but there's only a set amount of stories you can tell. You can tell any amount of story you want, but you're gonna run into the same story beats here and there, right? After a while, you're gonna run into the same characters or types of stories or stuff like that. So it's up to the game to create a character in that storyline that is cool enough. And I do think Haseo and Adelie provide something unique, as do a lot of the other characters in this environment, because they're trying to tell a story from the perspective of an online game. But they do it a little differently than a different game, like Sword Art Online would have. Dot Hack went for a more dramatic kind of, people were getting comatose and, you know, Haseo's being a little bent out of shape and shit because of that. Sword Art Online did it from the sense of an action game. I'm not saying which one was better. Personally, I thought Dot Hack was better, but, you know, Sword Art Online wasn't the first to do it, and I don't know if Dot Hack was either. I'm not saying Dot Hack was the first game, the first anime to say, hey, how about we do an online video game and play on that kind of thought. But it was the one I remember, and it's the one I think of when I think of that sort of setup, and then everything else is just going to be compared to how this did it. And that's why I kind of bounced off Sword Art, because I did the first season or two, and I was just like, you're fine, but I don't like you enough to stick with it. Because again, you're weighing options. And for me, the sum of this game's parts outstrip a lot of games that a lot of people recognize as like the best. I would highly say this is like cult classic, underrated, you know, very underrated. And I'm glad that I'm playing it. Because I don't, you know, outside of people on JRPG Reddits or whatever talking about it, I don't know how well this sold. I don't know how well thought of the Dot Hack franchise as a whole is thought of. You know, because it's on the older side, you know, early 2000s instead of now, 2024. Because this was released in 2019, or 2017, 2018 as a remake, right? Shut up, phone. I'm trying to talk. But I think there's an audience for everything. And it's incumbent to say, never say you hate something. Say you don't understand a thing. I've done this with a lot of like metal reviews on like a website. I do metal songs or not metal covers. I you know, on a small website, I do for a small, very small set of people. I just listen to metal music backwards and forwards. I've listened to Sabbath, Candlemass, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, you name it, that shit. But I'm trying out different bands like Iced Earth and whatever, and you know, Gravedigger, you know, different things I never would have heard of, never tried before. Blind Guardian, you know, stuff I probably should have heard of but never did for some reason. And I have to weigh like one album and one band against all the others in my life I've ever played before or watched before or listened to before, and I'm like, okay, but I'm trying new things and I'm enjoying it. And that's all we can really do at the end of the day, is trying things out and seeing, is this the sort of thing that I would enjoy? Not everybody's going to always enjoy everything. But having a common ground, much like, say, Sakaki would say, rather than antagonizing people like Haseo would, you know, and freely admitting, hey, I'm not the biggest fan of X whatever, and here's why. But I'm not going to condemn someone if they do. I think the last thing you want to do as a creator is deny someone something. Having a reason to want to play something or not wanting to do it, but doing it in a respectful manner and saying the same thing if you're trying to talk to a friend. That's how you make friends. You learn what people like and don't like. That's why Haseo and Adelie are oil and water. They're two different personalities trying to find common ground, and then Syllabus is the just guy in the middle that's, you know, out of the conversation because he doesn't understand it. He's just a normal guy who has his own issues. You know, little things like that I think the game processes in its story, in its characters, in its cutscenes. Add in all the gameplay stuff that is very crisp to a point. You know, it's not gonna win awards for visuals or game design or sound design or whatever, but it's still a good, solid package. And I think this is well regarded in the community, and I think that's the biggest thing, is trying to find ways to express why a thing is good. And hopefully, you know, this episode was a way to explain why I think this game, to an extent, succeeds and fails at different things, different levels, but I still always seem to go back to it and enjoy it as that comfort food game that I don't think people talk about enough. And I hope that in some small way people do enjoy this playthrough, and I've been sticking with it because it's going to be a longer one. But hey, what I'm going to do is call it for today, because I was able to go from like level 10 to level 17 in a good 30 to 35 minutes, 40-minute stretch. So, I should be okay for the next story beats. But I'm going to take a break and call this a nice long recording session over with and go about my business. So I'll see you guys next time.